Taking the High Road podcast, presented to you by Divorce Buddy and CDC Certified Divorce Coach. Welcome to the show. In the Taking the High Road podcast, you'll learn simple strategies for creating a healthy divorce no matter what stage you are at. This podcast also has a companion book available from Amazon.com that includes valuable insights from 11 certified divorce coaches. To learn more, be sure to visit highroadanddivorce.com. Again, that's highroadanddivorce.com. If you want to make a comeback, you must take the high road, and to take the high road, you must consider everyone involved. It's not about winning the war. Today we have on the show Pamela Dykes. Pamela is a PhD and CDC certified divorce coach. Pamela, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Jeremy?
I'm doing great, thank you. Well, Pamela, you've been doing this for a while. So can you share a little bit about your divorce coaching practice and what inspired you to become a divorce coach?
I became a divorce coach. I was already a coach for at least 5 or 6 years before this happened. And I was writing a book called Diary of a Comeback Mom because I was desperate to get back into the workforce in a really big way. And so I just started interviewing women that I thought had done that, or I thought that they had a really interesting comeback story. And so I interviewed 3 women, and one of them had become a ship captain. One of them had lost 100 pounds on her own, and the other one had really overcome domestic violence, and they were all like thriving in life. So when I interviewed them, I just really wanted to know their story about their comeback and how they were able to just move into or onto something new. And however, when I contacted them all of them, their response was, "Oh, sure, I'll tell you my story, but I'm going through a horrible divorce. And does that impact you wanting to interview me?" And of course, no, I did. That was perfect. And their stories were so interesting. And probably 6 months later, my husband told me that he no longer wanted to be married. And he, within about 6 or 7 months, from August of 2011 to July of 2012, he had moved out and moved on, and I found myself in the midst of divorce. So since I had been a coach, the ICF organization in my city, that's where I met Randy and Peggotty. And really, I took the course because I didn't want my ex to sort of bully me in divorce court. And so I just really wanted to learn because that's sort of my personality type. But once I went through my own divorce and once I went through the course, I knew that I wanted to help as many people as I possibly could through this difficult process.
Well, Pamela, it sounds like you have quite a cross-section of types of clients that you work with. Is there any profile in particular that you work with most?
My ideal client is really somebody that not only wants to get over their divorce, but it's somebody that just really wants to live their life to the fullest, and somebody that wants to look at the concept to take divorce as not a setback, but turn this sort of setback into their major comeback and live their best life. So it's somebody that can afford a coach, somebody that's really positive, and somebody that really tries to take good care of themselves. And so that's both male and female.
So are your clients usually parents, or do you help parents as well as husbands and wives who don't have children?
Both, but I prefer the ones that have children because I think the focus, when you're single and you're moving on and you don't have children, it's, I think really taking the high road and living your best life when you have children, it takes on a whole new meaning. And so that's sort of my sweet spot.
Now, you've talked about something called the comeback roadmap that you've created. So what is the comeback roadmap?
The comeback roadmap, there's certain steps, and I think all people going through the process need to walk through certain steps to really get to where they want to be on the other side of divorce. And so I take them through steps that, the comeback roadmap, it's an acronym for it. So the first step, and it's not necessarily a linear process, almost like the divorce process isn't linear. So you kind of ebb and flow through stages, but C stands for choosing you. And you really have to focus on extreme and really good self-care because you can't get to your children or to the people that you serve without taking good care of yourself and choosing you. Because most of the time, if you've been a spouse Or if you've been a parent, most of the time you put your children or your spouse ahead of yourself. Well, now I want you to take good care of yourself so that you can really feed people out of your overflow. The second step is, obstacles. There are many obstacles that come with divorce, as well as, some of the obstacles have to do with mindset. Some of them are actual physical obstacles. So it could be financial stress, or it could be physical stress, or it could just be the fact that you've surrounded yourself with negative people or you have negative thinking. So overcome your obstacles. And then the next one is to just decide, make a declaration like Nike, decide that you're going to do it, that you're going to make a comeback. And E is embrace chaos, because with divorce and with change, there's going to be so many levels of chaos. It's almost like when you renovate a house, you sort of have to gut it a little bit in certain places, pull things out, and it gets really messy and dusty before you can actually, start over with something new. And the C is communicate, and there's communication on all levels. What you say to yourself, you may have negative messages that are constantly on loop, what you say to others, your nonverbal communication, and then how you present yourself to the world, your interpersonal communication, as well as how you communicate with your children and your ex-spouse. So I try to help focus on the communication piece. And then there's the next phase is to believe, because sometimes when you're going through divorce, it's really hard to believe that you're going to be able to get to where you are, because it can be long. And like the stages of grief, you go in and out of them. A is, make sure you adjust and adapt and become really resilient in the process. And then I did one of them out of order, but the K is just keep on moving, keep on taking action, keep on believing, keep on loving, keep on communicating well, and keep on forgiving, because forgiveness is a huge piece in the process.
So do you want to quickly just run through those again in order?
C is choose you. O is overcome obstacles. M is make a declaration. E is embrace chaos. B is believe. A is adjust and adapt and become resilient. C is communicate or communication. And K is keep on moving.
Well, that sounds simple enough, Pamela, and easy to remember. Now, can you walk us through a typical early coaching session with somebody that you work with?
Well, an early coaching session is, kind of the discovery phase, and I want to find out where the person is. I want to get an idea for how they're feeling and what their ultimate outcomes are. So I do a discovery phase where I ask them, several questions to find out who they are, where they want to focus on the divorce process. Because there's the beginning phase, there's the phase where you're moving, you're going through the actual process, and then there's the phase where you're moving on. So I want to find out as much information, and then the client and I co-create a process so that they can get to their ultimate outcomes.
Now, Pamela, what would you say are the most common challenges that someone may have when going through a divorce?
There are so many of them. One of them is fear, because they're often, wondering what's going to become of them after, divorce. They have, a lot of times they have negative belief systems that tell them that they're never going to survive or never going to meet anyone. Also, another huge misconception is staying in that anger phase and not really wanting to move on. That's another one. And then oftentimes communicating with their legal professionals. Divorce can be super duper expensive, but if you can remain calm in the process and collect your thoughts before you call your attorney, it can save you probably 50 to 60% of the cost. And you can look at different ways of handling your voice, and then they may not always be traditional.
So the feeling of having to go it alone is a common misconception that people often have when going through the divorce. How do you help them dispel this misconception and help them really understand that they can go through their divorce with the support that they need?
What's really that's a really good one, because I think that has a lot to do with this mindset shift. And many women do feel like they have to go it alone, because I know, and even in my own situation, I felt like I was just surrounded in suburbia with all of these, intact two-parent homes. And that's not necessarily true. So you can help them explore other ways, find other women, find support groups, as well as find a divorce coach to help them go through the process. So it's just by shifting the thought process from I am alone to these are all my options. And that's what I try to get the clients to look at.
So that's great advice, Pamela. Now, can you share with us maybe a story of a client that you've worked with who was going through some rough patches? Maybe they were feeling alone, overwhelmed, but by applying the insights that they gained from working with you, they were able to overcome those challenges and fears and really emerge from their divorce in a place where they were happy and, let's say, emotionally healthy?
Yes. Well, one of the women that I coached, and really this is probably one of my earlier clients, but it's continued, I've continued to work with her over the years. She came to me and she was completely overwhelmed. When we first started working together, she did not have a job. She had two small children. One of them was 3 and the other one was probably in the 2nd grade. And she had just overcome a really difficult divorce. Some things that had happened where her husband had abused her, and that was sort of the last straw in her divorce scenario. So she was, basically the floor was totally pulled out of her whole life, and she had to restructure and regain a whole new life. So we started out with, creating the vision that she wanted to have of her future. We went through all of the places where she was able to establish do what she really set out to do. And then we created a framework to help her get on track. So she had 3 phases to it. She had the parenting phase, she had the job phase, and then she had the to really getting herself together phase that we had to go through. And we just took them step by step so that we helped her create, winning environments as a parent. So she established a good support network, a winning environment that helped her develop really get back on track when it came to her own job situation. And now she's gainfully employed, and she has been for the past 5 years. And then the last phase in the process was finding love again. And now she is in a committed, wonderful relationship with a man that she likes. And she worked on herself first, along with her parenting. Then she improved her job situation. And then we went from that phase to finding love again.
So Pamela, if you were to crystallize the key benefit or key opportunity for growth after going through this work, what would you identify that as?
The key really is to identify opportunities for taking the high road when it comes to divorce, because you can be tempted to stay in a negative place or rehearse old stories that aren't necessarily true, but really looking at the bright side of every situation and every choice that you make during the divorce process, and acknowledge and get support when and where you need it, and then use the support to help you get back on track.
So in closing, Pamela, what's one of the most important things that people should consider when they're going through a divorce?
The main thing to consider is that, one, you're not alone, that you will get through it. Many people have, and that this is not necessarily a negative thing. You get a chance to create a whole brand new life, and a new life for yourself that includes, joy and freedom. So I would look at it like that. And that's probably one of the best ways of, shifting from divorce to a new great life.
Is there any acronym that you've come up with for that? I'm just kidding.
No.
Thanks so much, Pamela. You certainly shared some great advice and some insights. In closing, how can the listener learn more about you?
You can contact me at www.pameladykes.com or check out my blog that is the Comeback Mom Lab.
Well, again, thank you, Pamela. We really enjoyed it. Thank you for joining us today on the Taking the High Road podcast. Be sure to stay tuned for the next episode. And if you're interested in learning more about the companion book available from Amazon, visit highroadindivorce.com. Again, that's highroadindivorce.com. Thanks again.